number 58. You might want to run through it. You know, we know the other ones.
Oh, ring the bell.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we know that one. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure we don't.
Oh, Wild Bell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll pick it up. I'm sure we'll pick it up quickly because lots of these Good morning. My name is Nora Mulligan, and I am your worship associate this morning. Please rise in body or spirit and join us in singing hymn 1009 in the Teal hymnal, Meditation on Breathing.
So this is a very short hymn, and so I'm going to play it once, and then we're going to sing it 4 times, and you can choose your part, because there's 3 choices. Choose your own adventure.
Good morning. My name is Christopher Fenton, and I am the treasurer of the Board of Trustees. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Hudson Valley. Whether you have been with this congregation a decade or more, or this is your first time visiting us, we welcome you. Whatever the faith and traditions of your past, we welcome you. Whatever your theological stance, we welcome you. Whoever you are and whomever you love, we welcome you. Whatever your heritage, we welcome you. We respectfully acknowledge the territory on which our church building sits as the ancestral homelands of the Munsee, Lenape, and Wappinger peoples. And we have a couple announcements today. Save the date, next Saturday, January 10th from 2:30 to 4 p.m. when the Social Justice Committee is sponsoring a presentation by a member of CCO Hope Indivisible Immigration Justice Team, Understanding the Real Immigration Crisis, Why It Matters, and How You Can Help. Come learn about meaningful steps you can take to support your local immigrant communities. Please attend and or volunteer to help with this event, and contact Jenny Stillman. Number 2, the Shake Away the Winter Blues fundraiser concert scheduled for next Sunday, January 11th, has been postponed due to a sudden schedule conflict for Alex Smith. The music committee is working with Alex, the vocalist Tony Jefferson, and the UUCHV rental calendar to find a new date. And finally, I'd like to invite Tom Glickman up to join me and make the next announcement.
Good morning, and Happy New Year. Thank you. You might remember I was up here a few weeks ago blabbing about the first ever Super Duper family game night. The Super Duper is the soup competition that we're going to start off with, where you bring a pot of your favorite soup to compete for fabulous prizes. And then the family game night that comes afterwards, which is great multi-generational fun. And if you had forgotten about it, there's actually on the back of your order of service, there's a little blurb there. We have gotten a lot of questions about the evening. It is January 17th. It's Saturday. It's just in a couple of weeks. But people were wondering, do I have to actually bring a soup? No, you do not. It's great if you do want to partake in the soup competition, but you don't have to actually bring a soup. You can just come and partake in the soup. Do you have to bring a game for the family game night? No, you do not, but you could bring your favorite family game and share it with the rest of the congregation. really great fun. The other question were, how do we actually sign up for this? Because we cunningly neglected to put sign-up sheets out in the hall. Well, they're out there now. So at the end of today's service, if you would like to sign up, probably this week and next week, come sign up if you have a soup to share. It would be great to have you all. Really looking forward to it. The other question we got was, isn't this almost identical to the chili competition and game night that we had last year? And that is absolutely not true. They're nothing alike. Well, okay, they're almost identical, but I've been informed that chili is not. This is hotly debated. It's not a soup. Okay, Megan says it's not so it's not a soup. Other than that, they're identical. But the fun that you had last year, you'll have it again this year, guaranteed. All right. Thank you very much. Hope to see you there.
For the most up-to-date information on these topics and others, please refer to our weekly e-newsletter and check our website frequently. And please join us for conversation after the service. If you are present in the sanctuary, please join us for coffee and conversation in Fellowship Hall. If you're watching the live stream, the link to our Zoom coffee hour can be found in the Saturday reminder in your email. If you are just recently joining us and would like to receive our weekly e-news, please email us at uucroton@gmail.com with your name, or fill out a yellow card or welcome card in the pew, and we will make sure you are added to our e-news list. Also, please remember to silence your cell phones at this time. Once again, we welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Hudson Valley.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you. As many people have said, Happy New Year. Happy New Year. We are a few days into what will be a very unknown year ahead for us. But I want to say that whether you braved our icy parking lot, we're working on that, thank you. Whether you braved the parking lot, the gentle snow, you're joining online, in this space we have come together to give testament to love and a vision of peace and hope and kindness and compassion. We can be attentive to what unfolds in this new year, and we can help make it one that brings compassion. I offer a prayer this morning from Reverend Daniel Gregoire, who serves one of our congregations in Massachusetts. Spirit of the empty places, Spirit of new beginnings, here we are. In this often difficult season of cold and night, it seems the hope we need might be far away. Help us to catch our breath so we might not stumble into despair. Let the past be our guide, helping us to the future we need, just on the horizon, unlocking, opening, growing. In that spirit of helping us to the future we need, I invite the children of this congregation forward to ring the bells of our sanctuary, to ring them loud for new beginnings, and to remind all of us to catch our breath so we might not stumble. And may those bells help us ring out the old, ring in the new, and be present to what is.
Our chalice lighting words this morning are by Lisa Doge. For the new year, just days old, beginning today, always beginning, we light our chalice, symbol of faith, perseverance, and hope, in astonished thanksgiving and irrepressible praise. For beginnings that emerge out of endings, appear amidst continuity, become visible in hindsight, we light our chalice, symbol of faith, perseverance, and hope, in astonished thanksgiving and irrepressible praise. For all the times and all the ways we have begun anew together, we light our chalice, a symbol of faith, perseverance, and hope, in astonished thanksgiving and irrepressible praise. Now please join me in our unison affirmation. The words are in the order of service.
Inspired by love, our mission is to seek our true nature, connect deeply and openly, and act for justice. It is the tradition of our congregation to, at least a few times a month, sing songs of praise in English and Spanish for all that is. You'll find them in the gray hymnal, number 381 and 382, or you can follow along in your order of service. Songs of praise. Stand in body or spirit. Our next hymn is a very old one. It comes to us originally from a poet from the 19th century, Tennyson, and I think it's where the phrase "ring out the old, ring in the new" kind of comes from originally. But as we read the verses, it's an older hymn, so it comes to us from a different time. But those words, to me, speak to the possibility that we are part of multiple generations responding to strife and uncertainty and fear. And I know that we are gathering at a time that is very uneasy and uncertain. If you've looked at the news over the last few days, there's much to be concerned, angry, confused, fearful about. But this song, which has been sung for decades all over the world in different contexts, is one that gives us the reminder that we can ring out what has been hurtful, and we can ring in the hope for what could be. So, ring out, wild bells, number 58 in the Gray Hymn Book. And inspired by the example of our young people who began our service, we are ringing one more time our bells to ring out what was and ring in what will be. Now is the time in our service for a moment of pause, meditation, breathing deep, and reflecting on what could be. Our reading comes to us from Reverend Howard Thurman, who is a teacher from the 20th century. This is called Blessing at Year's End and Beginning. I remember with gratitude the fruits of the labors of others, which I have shared as part experience of daily living. I remember the beautiful things I have seen, heard, and felt. Some as a result of definite seeking on my part, and many that came unheralded into my path, warming my heart and rejoicing my spirit. I remember the moments of distress that proved to be groundless, and those that taught me profoundly about the evilness of evil and the goodness of good. I remember the new people I have met, from whom I have caught glimpses of the meaning of my own life and the true character of human dignity. I remember the dreams that haunted me during the year, keeping me ever mindful of goals and hopes which I did not yet realize, but from which I drew inspiration to sustain my life and keep steady my purposes. I remember the awareness of the Spirit that sought me out in my aloneness and gave to me a sense of assurance that undercut my despair and confirmed my life with new courage and abiding hope. I remember with gratitude the year. This new year is only a few days old. I have no idea what will happen in 2026. But I want everyone to know that we are part of a tradition of love and peace and showing up in difficult times, and that many before us have done the same. And that if you're scared or worried or uncertain, you're not alone. And that through our coming together, through not isolating, but actually coming together, whether through the digital way or in person, we're creating spaces where people can show up and be present. I am grateful for the year. In a moment, the children of our congregation are going to head out to religious exploration, which is a wonderful experience of learning and creativity and an affirmation in a world where there is much war that peace can be creative. And we sing them out with this song of hope and blessing, number 413, Go Now in Peace.
ask the congregation to read the parts that are in italics. Let us not wish away the winter. It is a season to itself, not simply the way to spring. When trees rest, growing no leaves, gathering no light, they let in the sky and trace themselves delicately against dawns and sunsets. The clarity and brilliance of the winter sky delight. The loom of fog softens edges, lulls the eyes and ears of the quiet, awakens by risk the unquiet. A low, dark sky can snow, emblem of individuality, liberality, and aggregate power. Snow invites to contemplation and to sport. Winter is a table set with ice and starlight. Winter dark tends to warm light, fire and candle. Winter cold to hugs and huddles. Winter want to gifts and sharing. Winter danger to visions, plans, and common endeavors. And the zest of narrow escapes, winter tedium to merrymaking. Let us therefore praise winter, rich in beauty, challenge, and pregnant negativities. We come together in community to share with one another, to support one another, and to celebrate one another. We bear sacred witness to each other in this honored ritual. As we begin, we know there are both great sorrows and great joys in our world that must be acknowledged as well. We light our first candle to honor those in pain, victims of violence and war and oppression all around our world. We light a second candle because we understand that amidst all of that pain, there's also celebration and joy in our world. We honor that joy and sorrow are woven together. For some of us here today, this has been a week of life-changing joy that needs to be lifted up in this worship. For others, this has been a time of deep pain and sorrow that needs to be shared to make the burden lighter. If this has been such a time for you, I invite you to come forward to light a candle and to briefly tell us of your joy or sorrow. You may also raise your hand in silent acknowledgement of your joys and sorrows, and we will light a candle for you. Please remember that your joys and sorrows are being shared on the live stream and the broader virtual community. I'll go first. Today is my husband's and my 45th wedding anniversary. Wow.
Hi, I'm Susie. A friend of mine at work, Amanda, came from the South, and her father killed himself last week, and she's the next of kin. And she wasn't speaking to him, and I mean, I can't believe she ever got out of that small-minded place that she grew up in. So it's just really hard on her.
Happy New Year, everybody. I have a couple of joys. Terry and I have been really sick for the last few weeks, so we've emerging and catching up with the world, and it's just great to be here. And my mom has also joined us today. She comes every couple of years. So Joan, my mother.
Good morning, I'm Betsy. I have a tiny joy. I have a new grand dog. He's brand new as of yesterday. I mean, he was born in October, but apparently he's 2 pounds. I'm going to read you his name, his full name. Critter Siddhartha Honeysuckle Mitchell Kaufman. Each part of that name has a story, which I'm happy to share with you at coffee hour. And if you wanted to see pictures, I just happen to have a few. So just saying.
I'm Monica. Speaking of dogs, my little dog Kolga is having hip replacement surgery on Tuesday. I'm scared, but yeah.
I'm Maddie. I have a very dear friend who lives in Caracas. And although she is in Washington at the moment, she does not know how she's going to be going home. She's an educator. She's been teaching uneducated people in Caracas and has had her life's work lifting people up. She's desperately afraid of what is happening to her country. So I would just love you to, keep her close at heart and all the people in Venezuela who are sort of feeling helpless about what's happening from our end and from their end.
We light one final candle for all those joys and sorrows that remain unexpressed, and for those outside of our walls who are searching for a place to bring the wholeness of their lives and be received with love.
This is an old prayer. It's not one I thought I was going to offer 3 days ago, but it comes from Harry Emerson Fosdick, who was the minister at that giant Riverside Cathedral in the Upper West Side back in the 30s and 40s. And this is his prayer. "O war, I hate you most of all, because you lay your hands upon the finest qualities in human life, qualities that rightly used would make a heaven on earth. You take our spirit of courage and devotion, and instead of letting it be a benediction to the world, you use it to burn cities and sack cathedrals and slay people. You take our loyalties that, well used, would redeem the world, and you harness them to a movement which inevitably means the murder of women and children and parents and the starving of whole populations. You take our religion, and to help your deadly work, you teach us to pray as old warlords before our God, pray to them as gods of war. You take our science, the fruit of our dedicated intelligence, and you make even of that an effective minister of hate. This is the deepest charge against you, O war, that you take our noblest powers and use them for destructive ends." 1933. Spirit of life and love, bigger than the universe, smaller than a grain of sand, be with us in this moment and all moments. Let us be attentive and grateful for all that unfolds around us, the magic and wonder of nature, the kindness of strangers, the possibility to begin again in a new year, and give us the grace and wisdom and attentiveness to be honest, to make amends for our past mistakes, and to try again, to begin again. May it be so. That lovely meditation Nora read has this line: "Let us not wish away the winter. It is a season in itself, not simply the way to spring. A low, dark sky can snow, emblem of individuality, liberality, and aggregate power. Let us therefore praise winter, rich in beauty, challenge, and pregnant negativities." Reverend Marta Valentin challenges us. She says that spirited leaders, who could be all of us, spirited leaders are mindful of taking deep breaths as an aspect of ongoing spiritual care. They reflect horizontally, connecting with human wisdom, and vertically, seeking the wisdom of the Spirit. Spirited leaders have their own spiritual stop, drop, and roll. Stop the trajectory of what has occurred. Drop into our hearts, take notice, and roll with what emerges. Roll with what emerges. Over the weekend, I kept thinking about my old home congregation, Bell Street Chapel in Providence, Rhode Island, which sanctuary is about the size of this. I grew up as in my 20s. I was very dedicated to this small and mighty Unitarian Universalist congregation. And in the early 2000s, Bell Street Chapel was a hub of anti-war organizing and activism. Elders and young people would go around the city of Providence with large signs, trying everything possible that people could think of to stop the war in Iraq, the possibility at the time of a war in Iraq, and to encourage our local congressional delegation to do the same. The majority of the congregation saw the community as being proud and a public beacon of opposition to the war, which we viewed as a war of choice. But we had multiple opinions. In that congregation, there was a young man just a year or two older than me who, at the same time that most of the people who he grew up with were going around the city of Providence protesting the war, he signed up to serve in the armed forces. because he believed in what he thought was a war of liberation. And the congregation had a moral dilemma where it was like, how do we hold up this moral witness and yet still say, we deeply care about you and we're not going to demonize you as an individual? And what I saw in the life of that congregation was this growing muscle to try to hold multiple realities at the same time. I remember one of the leaders who was part of social justice told me, we worked really hard to love one another, to love our families even as we made different discernment about what was happening, to try to hold complexity in our sermons and prayers. We were not flippant, we were not demagogic, but we were trying to respect people, made different analysis, but we still wanted to be true to our values in public. Our Unitarian Universalist Association in 2010, by vast majority of vote of the delegates of our General Assembly, our gathered annual meeting of representatives from congregations around the world, voted on a statement of conscience on peacemaking, informed by the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And it reads in part, for Unitarian Universalists, the exercise of individual conscience is holy work. Conscientious discernment leads us to engage in the creation of peace in different ways. We affirm a range of individual choices, including military service and conscientious objection, whether to all wars or particular wars, as fully compatible with Unitarian Universalism. For those of us who make a formal commitment to military service, we honor their commitment, welcome them, and offer them pastoral support. For those among us who make a formal commitment as conscientious objectors, we will offer documented certification, honor this commitment, and offer pastoral support. The star of the faith is peace and peacemaking and peace building. And people go on different journeys to try to achieve that, to try to meet this star in the sky. The tradition is open to multiple responses, but the goalpost always has to be peacemaking, human dignity, and repair. You can find meditation manuals that are specific for families who are soldiers in the armed services. One is called Bless All Who Serve. There are multiple UU military chaplains who have particular calling to interfaith work. And Reverend Sarah Lammert, who used to serve as the Director of Ministries and Faith Development, reminds us that most soldiers in the armed forces are between 18 and 22 years old. And they are thrown into, she writes, they are thrown into situations most of us couldn't imagine. We need to show up and accompany these people. And as we know, in the aftermath of Afghanistan, many young people were not accompanied and entered into spirals of deep pain and destruction. Reverend William Sinkford, who served as the president of our denomination in the early 2000s, was emphatic. I stand for the peace vigil. I stand for the peace vigil. War is not our first choice, and it is always a failure. He is also the father of a son who served as an Army Ranger in the 82nd Airborne Division in the war in Afghanistan. Once President Sinkford addressed the Naval War Center just before the start of the war in Iraq. And he said, I come here with a sense of gratitude. Thank you for the work you do, the protection you afford us, the democracy you help us preserve. And I come before you as one who stands before the peace vigil and who fervently believes the United States should only operate with the blessings of the international community. We all hold multiple truths and discern what we're individually called to do. For all of us, we have to be present. James Luther Adams was someone who was a theologian in our tradition about the same time as Harry Emerson Fosdick was preaching at Riverside. And Adams, who in his graduate studies in Germany saw the rise of the Nazi Party, he retained a deep faith in ultimate optimism. Good's going to win in the end. But he was very clear-eyed. Good isn't going to win every day. We covenant in our faith tradition to, quote, collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to our heritage, never complete and never perfect. And since the U.S. Civil War, American Unitarians and Universalists have tended to three responses to war: humanitarianism, just war, and pacifism to all war, and sometimes just to particular conflicts. The humanitarian impulse says the most important thing is to protect life. Make sure there are medical supplies, care for the wounded, support for refugees as a religious value for those who are displaced by war, and caring for those who come back who are wounded. In the New York City area, our sister congregation, the First Unitarian Church in Brooklyn, has been doing this work for over 100 years. They were a hub of Red Cross organizing in the First World War. They did tremendous work during the influenza after that war. A young woman who was involved in that work in that congregation died of influenza, and 100 years later, they still give away a Bible to every child in the RE program from a fund that her family left to the congregation. But this humanitarian tradition continues. Brooklyn right now, in the last 2 years, they've raised over $16,000 for families in Gaza who have been displaced or harmed when they have not been able to fundraise for work in Gaza itself because of barriers from the Israeli government. They've directed money into charities working in Jordan. The just war tradition is one that was very prominent in most congregations during the Second World War. All across the region, you can find older houses of worship with an honor roll plaque. Maybe some of you had family members in one, naming either all who served in the conflict from the congregation or the names of those who died. The just war theory, which goes back to the ancient Roman times, says, quote, there are the right of individuals and nations to defend themselves, and acknowledges our responsibility to be in solidarity with countering aggression. Just war is not an excuse for harm. Just war does not excuse violence against civilians. And some theologians and philosophers argue that while you can agree with just war in theory, in the modern world in practice, no war is just. Albert Einstein in 1948 was, according to the archives in the AP Wire, asked by friends at a dinner party what new weapons might be employed in World War III. And he was appalled and reportedly just stopped and was quiet. And then after a long period of contemplation, he said, I don't know what weapons will be used in World War III, but there isn't any doubt about what weapons will be used in World War IV. And then a guest asked him, what? And he said, stone spears. Others hold that in a changing world, force is sometimes necessary, but it's always a tragedy. And even in that sense, our association in 2010, and in a statement that our denomination's president, Reverend Sophia Betancourt, released yesterday, we as a tradition repudiate aggressive preventative wars, the disproportionate use of force, covert wars, and targeting that includes a high risk to civilians. In the last 70 years alone, our tradition has fostered relentless humanitarians who have put in hours upon hours to care for the wounded and to heal trauma. Brave anti-war activists arrested for their actions, sometimes suffering long prison sentences. One of my favorite stories about this was Edna Griffin, who was this amazing veteran of World War II. She was an African-American Unitarian in Iowa. She helped desegregate Iowa public facilities. When she was an elder, she served on the board of the UUA, our denomination. And then at the same time she was doing that, at one point she protested in the middle of a highway to stop nuclear weapons from being shipped from one area to another. She was and she was the deciding vote to start the Office of LGBT Affairs at the UUA. So Edna Griffin is a UU saint. If we have, we do, but and believe it or not,
3 Secretaries of Defense of the United States of America have been Unitarian Universalists, including one who served under Richard Nixon. Elliot Richardson was the Attorney General of the United States and Secretary of Defense under Nixon. His resignation sparked a series of events that ultimately led to President Nixon's resignation. Under President Bill Clinton, 2 Secretaries of Defense were Unitarian Universalists, one of whom was one of the founders of the Palo Alto Unitarian Fellowship. The later William Cohen grew up in a Christian Jewish family, and his parents were trying to find a place to raise their kids. I say this just that the breadth of our tradition represents the multiple pathways people seek to try to do peacemaking. You can find amazing anti-war activists. You can find examples of secretaries of defense. You can find people who are humanitarians. We're all trying to figure out how to respond to evil. And we don't always agree, and we won't always agree. But I think particularly in a moment like this, I think back to those old Unitarians in Eastern Europe who, just at their foundation, said violence has no role in religion. Doesn't matter what you believe, you should not be imprisoned for having a different interpretation of Scripture. And that simple affirmation of protection and agency and the dignity of people is one that has grown over the years. And Greta Crosby, whose beautiful meditation we heard, is now 95 years old. I'm going to try to get a couple copies of her books, but she's 95 years old. When she was ordained in 1960, she was one of fewer than 50 female ministers in the whole association. And in her first placement in Virginia, the only reason she didn't go to Selma was because she was nursing her child. And throughout her career in Kansas and Washington State, in Virginia, she repeatedly tried to find ways to institutionalize social justice commitments and create special funds for those congregations to give awards to social justice activists and raise money for them so that they could honor people even after they were no longer with us. She said, we need each other, our many ways of seeing that together we may rejoice and see clearly and find the many keys to abundant life. That old phrase that Frances Ellen Watkins Harper talked about in the 19th century. Amidst the upheavals and uncertainties of our time, from the attack on Venezuela to the struggles of asylum seekers in Ossining, to the aches of American veterans, to the refugees in Gaza, we as a gathered group can explore what to do in this moment. And I suggest that, like our forebears, attention to music and meditation and nature and these moments of spiritual encounter can give us opportunities to see with new eyes and fresh insight into what is around us and give us grounding and an anchor to ourselves. Later this year, I'll have more sermons on spiritual practices. Reverend Marta Valentin challenges us. Spirited leaders are mindful of taking deep breaths as an aspect of ongoing spiritual care. They reflect horizontally, connecting with human wisdom, as well as vertically, seeking the wisdom of the Spirit. Spirited leaders have their own spiritual stop, drop, and roll to put fires out. Stop the trajectory of what has occurred. Drop into your heart. Take notice and roll with what emerges. May peace be our star, and may we be attentive on the journey. May it be so.
Each week, we make an offering from the bounty we are blessed to enjoy. We do this in the spirit of love and generosity, aware that we have benefited from those who have gone before, those who in their turn gave generously. Our offering goes to support the work of love and justice undertaken by this community. Today's offering will be shared with PrideWorks. The annual conference for LGBTQ plus youth and their allies is held every spring in Westchester County, New York. Next event, March 25th, 2026. For more information, visit prideworks.com. Please refer to the e-newsletter or website for more information. You make your donation in several ways. If present in the sanctuary, you may give cash or a check in the offering plate as it comes by. From your homes, you can make your donation via credit card or PayPal using the links provided in the e-newsletter, or by visiting our website, UUCHV.org. Or, if you prefer, you can always mail us a check. The offering will now be given and gratefully received. Dedication of the offering. The words are in your order of service. May these gifts and the work of our hands and hearts give power to all we stand for as a community of faith. Now please rise in body or spirit for our closing song, hymn number 163, the Cray hymnal, For the Earth Forever Turning. Now please join me in extinguishing the chalice. The words are in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
May we seek peace in our hearts, in our lives, in this world. May we go on our journeys knowing we are not alone, and may we accompany one another in love. May it be so.